Hogsty.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Hogsty. It is Alex, it is Dave, it is Steve, and it is an exciting show coming up. Washington in the thick of the playoff race, right now favored to be the 7th seed, I believe is where we're at right now. Are we 6th? I didn't see if we're 7th, but like they're in.
Washington is 6th.
We're 6th right now. So it's control your own destiny time. If they beat the Giants tonight, or not tonight, if you're listening to this on Sunday tonight,
yes.
But if you beat them on Sunday
it's
night,
like you've never done this before, Alex.
I know. Yeah, I know. I've had a lot of holiday
parties. The past 7
this
years
week.
go.
Yeah, I know. I've had a lot of holiday parties this week. There's no booze at ours, but there's a lot of sugar and candy, and I'm just high on all that.
He's high on life.
Yes, I'm super excited, guys. Not because of that. This weekend, I finally get my chair.
Oh, is that coming?
I got to go pick it up. Or is it Sunday or Saturday morning? I got to
What was
check.
the total damage?
4 is the first.
400 for the chair.
Yep.
I can't believe you finally got the chair. We've been talking about this chair for years.
Yeah.
Now,
I've been telling my wife I was buying this chair on our second date.
Now, are you gonna lug this thing out to like shows and conventions that have past Redskins greats and have them sign it?
That would be fun.
That's not a bad idea.
That's not a bad idea at all.
I
would do that in a heartbeat.
So
what is
right
your plan for this chair?
And my thinking is right now I'm probably gonna have to move this shelf over a little and put the chair behind me because I can't sit in it. Right, like it's not. You don't want to sit in that thing. You don't want to risk it breaking or anything like that.
Also, it's immensely uncomfortable.
Yes. Yeah, that's also true. Those stadium seats were not comfortable.
No.
So I'm thinking it's gonna be in my office somewhere. I gotta rearrange a few things, but my ideal is someday have my shelf behind me, have the chair on the bottom, and then like all my signed mini helmets from like Sammy Baugh and everything above it, and all my other Redskins and Wizard or not Wizards. I don't have anything Wizards. What do I have? I have a lot of Nationals crap.
You have a lot of crap from miscellaneous semi-pro football teams, too.
I do. I have so much semi-pro crap.
Now, the boss has approved this to come into your house, this chair.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Like I said, we had this discussion on like our second or maybe it was our third date.
You literally date number 3.
If this goes anywhere, just know when they start selling chairs from RK Stadium, I'm buying one.
You got that out front.
That was way before we moved in together.
See, I'd love to have a chair, but I can't show up to pick it up, and 2,
right.
I'm too cheap to spend $400 on a piece of wood. I don't care where it came from.
Well, I think the plastic ones from the upper decks are like $300, if that makes a difference.
See, and also I can't remember where my seats were, and
yeah. See, you don't even get it's gonna be
whatever you get. You get.
I show up to the lot, I give them my number, and then they give me a chair.
They throw
it. Doesn't matter anyway. You buy the seat, you tell everyone it's the seat I sat in with my dad, and no one's the wiser.
Dave, am I gonna lie?
Yeah.
Do you not know me? Am I gonna lie? No, I'm not gonna lie about it.
Steve's a terrible liar. It's documented.
I am a terrible liar.
Yeah. Which you would think he wouldn't have gotten into his professional background with that.
I'm exactly the same way. I just say, I just blurt it out.
Right.
Here it is. You know.
Well,
when everybody's trying to be political, I just go, here, look, this is what he meant,
Maybe that's why you're more into the contract side of things, too.
Hey, I litigated for a while.
Yeah. That's true. You did way back when, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just thought I'd throw that out there. I'm super excited about the chair.
I'll look forward to your Twitter post about it, I'm sure.
Yeah, so. I'm sure you'll see it on Twitter.
I won't see it on Twitter. You'll have to text it to me.
Yes.
For that photo, you have to at least sit in it once.
I will carefully.
You got to at least do that.
So here's the thing: it comes on brackets that make it so it'll stand up, but they say, like technically you have to screw it in a wall to sit in it safely. So
yeah, but you're only talking about 10 seconds.
Well, tell you what, maybe you sit in it anyway and it breaks and you can sue them.
Yeah, because that was on their Twitter feed. That wasn't like in the.
It's not a warning.
Yeah. That's no warning. You're right.
Product's liability defect.
Yeah, and I'll get the Attorney General of DC on it because he loves that.
Oh,
kind of
I'm
crap.
sure. Yeah, he'll be all over it, and he doesn't have a claim. It's you that has the claim.
Right. Oh,
and maybe you can make enough. You can go in with Bezos and be minority owner of the Commanders.
Yeah. Well, they are for sale.
My criteria for owning that team would be the name has to go and the Redskins name has to come back. Otherwise, I wouldn't invest a dime. That would be my criteria.
I don't think the rest of the league would allow you to go to back to the name. I think they would allow you to buy it and put another name on it.
But that would be if I had that much money, which I do. I do have that much money.
Right. Steve won 12 lotteries in a row, so he's got that money.
Yeah. And
I actually had what I think is a foolproof plan if I were to buy the team to get the Redskins name back.
Okay, go ahead. What is it?
You want me to go through it, huh?
Well, you can't throw that out there and just say, "Oh, I have a great plan." He's got an 8-point plan,
but he's not going to tell you all the points.
We'll see. You know, it's real simple. You go not simple. I mean, it's a long, drawn out process, but. You know, you put together a team. You simply go to every reservation. You talk to every Native American there, the chiefs, so forth. You kind of do your own independent polling through all that. But in the process of all that, you kind of get together with the 12 councils and you tell them and say, "Listen, I want to bring you guys in as owners, as a team, in terms of like a charitable donation. You get 5% of my ownership. All that money will come to you." Out to your reservations, it'll end up being tax free, and then we'll do all these benefits in terms of 4 years.
Tax free.
Well, because you could fall under. Because don't they have?
You can't give somebody ownership of a company and just decide it's going to be tax free. The federal government frowns on that.
I'm sure there's some kind of loophole out there, like you have with the casinos that they have. In terms of like any kind of money they make off of that.
The casinos are governed by tribal law, and the federal government just basically allows them to violate federal law and claims that it's their property. So here's what you do, okay? You need to come to me with these things when you have these kind of great ideas before you implement them.
Well, that's why it's a rough start. It's a rough idea.
Didn't Dan Snyder try this also, going to all like?
Well, no, he said that they formed like some sort of charitable type arm, and nothing.
It's called the Original Americans Foundation.
So what I would recommend is that you have a guarantee in which you guarantee to give X percentage of your profits to a charitable to a 501c3 organization.
There you go.
Then that will fund all of the coke and hookers for the tribes.
And so in turn,
this is literally what Dan Snyder tried.
Yeah, right.
The coke and hookers is particularly. Yeah.
Yes.
So I would in turn have actually a seat on them within the organization.
You know what the problem is, though? The problem is that
burst my bubble. Go ahead.
Nattering busybodies who sued the team for 20 years do it again.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Oh.
Yeah, I just don't see a realistic path where it's ever going to happen.
We're destroying Dave's dreams here.
Well, no, it's just I just think that there is a path that you can have to where you actually.
I'm all for it. Look, if you win the lottery and I win the lottery 10 times in a row, let's try to figure it out. I'll be the brains of it. I'll be the legal part of it. You be the public relations part. You can go. I'm terrible at that, and so I'll leave that to you because nobody wants to talk to me. Which is why I talk into a microphone. Right. So we can work that out, but we'll need to figure out how to get the money first. That's the problem.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, at the end, if you have enough of these tribal chiefs or leaders coming in and they're on board with doing all this, we get these protests and these people sitting there talking about what change the name. You point over there and say, well, you go talk to my guys over here. You convince them. Huh?
No, I peeked behind the hogsty curtain. I spent a significant amount of time trying to find any of those people to come on this show and talk about the name, and I couldn't find. I found one guy who was willing to talk about it, but he was deaf. So he was a professor at some university, and he said, "I'd do it, but I'm deaf." I was like, "Well, hell, that doesn't help me." But I emailed the plaintiffs in those lawsuits. I contacted every Native American, studies group at every major university. Couldn't find a single soul who wanted to talk about this. Like, well, thanks, guys. Appreciate you helping out the Hogsty.
Well, that's the thing. You weren't given anything for incentive-wise for them to do all that.
I would have given them a tomahawk. How about that?
One, if we have a tomahawk, I'm keeping a tomahawk. I love me a good tomahawk. I'm a big axe guy.
Okay, a caricature of an Indian.
We're not going to do that. That we're not doing. I mean, my office, I have bow and arrows and swords. I love me some medieval weaponry, so I would keep the tomahawk.
I'll give him one of my guitars. How about that?
Okay, you can give him a guitar. That's fine.
It's got to be a cheap one. I don't have to go buy a cheapo one that I'm not afraid to lose.
Yeah, something that's like $100, reasonable.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Either way, I'd find a way to get the name back, and I will succeed.
There you go. I am all about that. So, Dave, you got to bid on the. If Dan Snyder does sell the team, you got to bid on it.
Right. So why don't we talk about what the updates are with that? Because so the thing the Post reported today was that Bank of America basically sent out. They called it a prospectus.
Which is not what you sent in a text message to me.
Yes, I know.
Some made-up word
that
you invented out of thin air.
The amazing thing is, I'm pretty sure Apple autocorrected whatever I wrote into whatever it said. So that might be a word that just
nobody knows.
Right yeah.
I can't tell you how many words I've come across. I'm like looking at what the heck is that?
Yeah. Oh yeah, all the time. But yeah. So Bank of America sent something out to all the serious possible bidders. Basically, I'm assuming it's what they're saying is it's a state of the team's finances and things along those lines. If I'm reading,
everybody knows this is normal, right?
Yeah,
Does everybody understand this?
Yeah. So now I don't know if this is normal timeline wise. That's the only thing I wouldn't know.
Well, I mean, look, no sale of billions of multi-billion-dollar company is quick and easy, and this still, by the way, does not mean that he's selling the whole team. This could be a prospectus to minority shareholders. In a search, it doesn't mean he has not come out and said, "I will sell this team." He has never said that. And
now,
if you think
the
about
reporting is saying they're talking to insiders who's saying it is a full sale.
Well, maybe, but that's also people who are desperate for it to happen.
Sure.
And I got newsflash. These inside reporters that are the Washington beat writers have no inside information on anything. They never have. It's the guys who break the stories on this team are the national reporters.
Right.
I'm sorry to say that, but I mean, that's just the way I've always seen it. But so anyway, I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that the time in which Dan Snyder needs several $100 million to build a stadium, he's hunting for partners.
No, that's not a surprise.
I've just, he could find some, Saudi Arabian oil sheik who doesn't care about who he is, and, boom, there's his money.
Yeah, just go get anybody from Qatar, because apparently they don't give a crap about anything.
They're willing to bury indentured servitudes under a soccer stadium. Indentured servants, rather. They're certainly willing to get in bed with Dan Snyder.
Right.
True.
Right. Dan Snyder would be like the nicest guy over there.
He'd be the moral pillar,
the moral authority.
Yeah.
They'd make him not Pope, because that's clearly not the right direction.
Considering he's Jewish, and
a Jew in Arab country, no.
Masquerading as the Pope, that would go well.
I think we just wrote a good stand-up sketch, though.
So a Jew or the Pope, we're
in Qatar.
Yeah. What are we talking about here?
We're talking about Dan Snyder selling the team. So that was the little tidbit that came out. Not a big thing.
That doesn't impress me.
No, but it is another sign of some. It's a step.
No, it isn't. That's
not really
not a sign of anything. I mean, you don't retain Bank of America to sell a $6 billion franchise and not have them put prospectus material out and send it out to a bunch of random people.
Sure. No, I understand that. Like I assumed, I would have thought it was already done. Honestly,
it might have been already done.
Yeah. The other thing, of course, that happened this last week was that the congressional reports all came out. There was a 79-page report that I read. I know there was 200 pages of depositions, including
300 pages, son.
It
was 300 pages.
300 pages.
Where is it?
My mistake. And it was Dan Snyder's full testimony?
Yeah, I didn't get it. So I haven't had a ton of time this week, and it took me all day Saturday to read that deposition, or most of the day, and I did not get around to Bruce Allen's.
Okay.
And I only read the executive summary of the report. I put that last in my on my list.
Is that the 79 pager? The executive
Yeah,
summary?
the report was 79 pages. I read the 10 page or 8, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pages executive summary of it.
Mm-hmm.
The report was less interesting to me because I already know it's going to say.
Yeah.
What was far more interesting.
There was not much new in there.
No, well, there's not much new in any of this. What was far more interesting to me was Snyder. So I prioritized that first. I will get around to the report and to Bruce Allen, but it just takes me time.
Now, when you read the Snyder thing, did you just highlight all the lies, or did you use tabs?
Well, the problem was I couldn't print it because it's 300 pages. I'm not going to print that, and I can't do it. I'm not going to do that. And so I did have to read it online, but I had a Microsoft Word open, and I just cut and pasted all of the lines I wanted to save. So I have 22 pages of notes on this thing now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So eventually we will get Steve's here's everything Snyder lied about.
You know, I wrote a column about this. So do you not pay attention to the Hogsty?
I haven't had time at work.
My co-owner of this little enterprise does not know I wrote 1,300 words on this already.
I've not kept up with anything going on with our website.
See, Dave's read it.
I'm reading.
Oh, you didn't read it either. Does nobody read this stuff?
I'll tell you off air all the shit I've been dealing with at work. Here's not just the holiday parties I was telling you about.
It's been a rough week for me too. So
yeah.
So here's the thing. Let me just tell you about Snyder. First of all, I've participated in a lot of depositions.
Sure. Would you say oodles?
What's that?
Would you say oodles?
I have done oodles of deposition, yes.
All right. Good.
He didn't say a ton in here that really got my radar antenna up. As a general rule, or as a sort of like a general executive summary type, which is the first part in the column that Dave's now reading on the fly. He used I don't recall a lot.
Right.
And he used it in places that he probably should have recalled, and he probably did recall but didn't want to say, and that was kind of a line. In there,
that's the one thing I've noticed. Yeah,
he had he was clearly prepared fairly well because he had a bunch of talking points and he basically stuck to them, and it more or less saved him. One of them was I don't recall. Clearly, if it was controversial, just say he doesn't recall. And he kind of overused it a little bit, but regardless. So one main point was he blamed a person who they called former staff number one. They redacted her name from the public transcript, but he blamed her for all the Meow lawsuit stuff. And sort of the story he was telling was that everything the team did, everything he did, everything his lawyers did was all designed to track her down and kind of uncover all the things she did. And it was not to interfere with the Wilkinson investigation. That was sort of the tone and tenor of the story he told. And the Democratic majority question that people are questioning him acted like opposing counsel and asked him questions like that. And the minority Republican counsel did not. They sort of treated it like they asked him questions like he was their client, and so they're more open-ended. They walked him through a bunch of things, whereas the Democrats were trying to kind of box him in. So, but that's one thing. So former staff number one, whoever that is, he blames her for everything, and he said that. Claimed he didn't.
I'm assuming this is the one that Dwight Scharr was paying that same woman. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't really get into that. At least that was not redacted, but that is who it is.
Okay.
And so the Meow lawsuit came up. Recall the Meow lawsuit is the website from India that said that he was involved with drugs and Jeffrey Epstein. And what was new in there is that he said, to me at least, I had not seen it, he said that unknown parties had tried to bribe members of his staff into saying things like that about him. And he also said people came after his kids, and it's like his kids had heard a lot of these things. meaning not meow lawsuit people, but just like random, people at school and all kinds of things.
Sure.
His kids had heard all these things, so it was really hard on his family, which I can understand.
I can understand that too. I mean, I grew up with a very minorly famous father, and people did that shit to me. Like, yeah, like that's what happens when anyone is important.
Well, and it's far more.
It's worse for him
when somebody's lying about you being involved with a serial child predator.
Yeah, of course.
And there's no, incidentally, if anybody wonders, this is not one shred of evidence that Dan Snyder was ever in Jeffrey Epstein's universe at all. It's a total fabrication. Okay, so that's that. So then they asked him a lot of questions about the slideshows that he gave to the NFL. He said they did a number of them. And in the line here, I could tell it's a prepared lawyer talking point. He said, we were just trying to present the facts. That was the line he said over and over again. We're delivering the facts. We're delivering the facts. Talked about his management style. What surprised me is he claimed he was only in the building about 30 days a year. And then plus the games.
He also claimed he was homeschooling his kids, but don't we know his son was in high school with
Dwayne Haskins, rest in peace, Dwayne Haskins. Yes, and also raise your hand if you think Dan Snyder is personally homeschooling his children. I didn't buy that.
No. In fact, that's the one thing that kind of stood out with me was under the management style. And how you can sit there and say that you had no idea that this culture was being developed while you were there because you weren't there enough.
Well, that's a problem. He has to say that because if he doesn't say that, then he's stuck with that he perpetrated it or at least tolerated it. So he's got to go, hey, I wasn't there, and that's his only way out.
But to me, in my own perception, that just kind of makes it worse because now you're trying to apply some level of plausible deniability in a situation to where you have a workplace environment that needs your attention, especially when the women are involved and so forth. And whether you're telling the truth on that or not, one way or another, you should have been there to stop it somehow. Even if you were part of it, don't want to admit it for a period of time, there should have been a light bulb to come on eventually and go, well, it's if you have any kind of moral conscience, they at least go, well, you know what, I need to stop this. I got to end this. But you don't sit there and say, well, I'm on the bill like 30 days out of the year, and how you said back before is like, well, this was all Bruce Allen. Bruce Allen got the ball rolling.
He said even that too.
Yeah. So but even though there's documentary reports that started before Bruce Allen. So it just kind of blows my mind that you no matter which end, whether he's lying about it because he doesn't want to implicate himself, or even if it's true, either way, it does not look good on him either way, period.
Oh, no, it doesn't for sure. But it's sort of the least worst thing here because the worst part of it, certainly for liability, legal liability, and because don't forget, this is public and, it's sworn testimony. I think it would be worse from a legal perspective to say, I was there and I tolerate all this and I was too
absolutely
to fix it and all of that. Yeah. So his only out is to say, well, I wasn't there, and we've got this evil dickhead Bruce Allen is in the building and all of that. So yeah.
The one thing, and now I didn't read the full testimony, but I
you didn't read any of it, Alex. You didn't read my column, much less his testimony.
But I've read hundreds of excerpts from it, and even just what I've read, I did pick up on one lie he told.
What's that?
He claimed Bruce Allen hired Alex Santos. Alex Santos was there before Bruce Allen. How does that work?
Well, because nobody knows, who are questioning him to call him on it. That's why.
Right.
So David Pauken was a big subject of this. David Pauken is the COO rather, who had all kinds of stories about him. He was the one who had the sour milk in Ted Lerner's Sweet Story.
Right.
He's the one who
said he had to buy prostitutes for Snyder.
He was one who said it happened. Yeah.
Right.
And he had a whole bunch of things, about, Snyder being mean in the building and all kinds of stuff. And Snyder pretty clearly denied a bunch of those things and didn't own any of it, and said a lot of it just said flat out didn't happen. He said the sour milk story didn't happen at all. He didn't do that. He said Ted Lerner's a friend. And some of that kind of rang true to me a little bit. The Tiffany Johnson story totally expressly denied that. Tiffany Johnson is the person who said that he touched her leg under a table at a dinner and then tried to steer him to his limousine. He expressly said, I don't know who she is. I didn't do that. So take that for what you will. That's what he said. He also said he didn't own a limousine, incidentally. And the response, which was a smart response by the attorney, said, well, you're still driving in a big chauffeured car, right? And yes.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. It's a Cadillac Escalade that you have chauffeuring you around. That.
Right. But again, Snyder, the substance part of Snyder said, I don't even know who this lady is. I never did this, is what he said.
Right.
And so the story about Dr. Tony Roberts denied that completely. Dr. Roberts is this friend of his, and they were at a charity event, and the story went, allegedly, he asked a cheerleader to go up to his room with him.
Oh, right, that one. Yeah.
He said that. He said, I don't even know what they're talking about. This never happened. We didn't have hotel rooms in this hotel, this thing. It said totally denied that. Kind of admitted that Larry Michael was a sleazeball, but said he didn't realize it till afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Expressly denied the sexual harassment claim. And what I said from the beginning with this, if you guys remember, is I told you guys that insurance companies settle these things. And this is exactly what Snyder said. He said an insurance company settled this case, out, and that was the end of it. And that is what I have done that. Okay. I have represented insurance companies who do that.
Right.
So that part is entirely possible.
Yeah. So,
go ahead.
What are some other things? And I know we're mostly focusing on what Snyder
I'm almost
said.
Done. Yeah, keep going.
Okay. Oh, okay. I didn't know if you had.
I'll run through the rest of this real fast before you comment. Okay. One thing I didn't know that was new about this is there's a consultancy firm called Vestry Late, which I had never heard of. This is not really my world, like a business consultant. And this is a firm that the team hired at some point after all this madness happened to do a report on the team, make recommendations, and sort of turn it in from a disaster into like a functional business organization. The Democratic majority did not want to let him get into all that because I think the biggest theme out of this whole deposition was focus on the future. Every time Snyder deferred to, we fixed a lot of these problems, and that is his counsel's way of deflecting from the bad, saying, well, we fixed all of it. Vestry Late did a report, and they had 10 points of all these things that the team needed to do. And Snyder, and they walked him through all of them, the Republicans did. And he said, we did all these things. So I'm not going to walk through all those points here, but Vestry Late was new on me. And then finally, Bruce Allen, Brian Lafemina, he said that Bruce Allen and Brian Lafemina couldn't coexist together, and I fired the wrong person. Meaning he fired Lafemina first. So there you go. That's the substance of it in 10 minutes or less.
I read that one. That's a big one. And on that note, an interesting thing that was in the 79 pager about Brian Lafemina. When Brian Lafemina was there, and this would have been 2018, that's when the team first apparently got report that the Post was starting to look into all this. Because there was an excerpt in the 79-page report where Lafemina was talking and said he'd heard from their sources, the Washington Post is starting to investigate all this, and he brought it to, I guess, whoever else would have been higher up, I guess Bruce Allen, some of those other senior folks. So it's interesting to me. I don't think we ever really got any idea of what the timeline was when this investigation started, but it was all the way back then. So I really wonder if Brian Lafemina started hearing all that stuff and was very happy to be let go.
I mean, the Snyder deposition certainly wasn't in any way clear about that.
Right. But I think they got that from Lafemina, not Snyder.
Yeah. So I think the summary of it overall is he did fairly well, didn't really hurt himself. I mean, it's not a good situation. It's no matter how you paint it, he comes out horribly, deservedly so. And a lot of
case you're hoping for is a tie?
The best case, what you're hoping for is you don't implicate yourself in some, some way. And I don't think he did that. A lot of this stuff is probably true. He can paint it however he wants, but a lot of it probably did happen. So that's that. And in terms of the report, look, the reason why I read Snyder's Depo first is that was much more interesting to me because the report is stupid.
Mhm.
We all knew nothing was going to happen, or if you didn't know that, you should have known it. It was nothing new. I read the beginning and I read the conclusion because I thought the conclusion was funny. Because don't forget, the reason why this committee is stupid is that they're not really doing anything that has a congressional purpose. They're doing this for attention. They're investigating one private company for no reason, so we knew that. And so the conclusion, of course, is after all these millions of dollars they spent in a year doing this, the conclusion is 4 paragraphs. And that's it. And apparently Chairman Maloney has proposed something called the Accountability for Workplace Misconduct Act, which is something that everybody I encourage to not vote for, which says it would, quote, prohibit the use of pre-dispute employment, non-disclosure confidentiality, non-disparagement agreements that limit, prevent, or interfere with an employee's ability to disclose harassment, discrimination, retaliation in the workplace, conditional employment. And that is a case of government overreach and burdening private enterprise with regulations, and we don't need that. And then there's something called the Professional Images Protection Act that they're going to file. So it requires employers to provide written notice and obtain consent from employees prior to taking, collecting, disseminating their image, which is another thing we don't need the federal government doing.
By the way, pretty much the thing about that one, pretty much and I work in the AV world, that's already kind of standard practice.
That's my point. We don't need the federal government saying stupid things like that.
That's not a new thing. Now, we could talk briefly about the fact that apparently in the RNC's response to the report, they accidentally leaked all the nude photos that Bruce Allen had been sharing with Jay Gruden.
I did not see the RNC's response to this, so I don't know what you're talking about.
So the RNC responded. In their response, they included Bruce Allen and John Gruden's emails, the ones where they left all the nude photos apparently in there. I think they blurred out the good bits supposedly, but that's not the best move.
The people who redacted the transcript at one point did leave a name in they shouldn't have,
really?
I didn't say it in anything, but there was one. They missed one in there.
Oh, okay.
So
now, Steve, though, just to kind of go back real quick, though, is for those who want, I guarantee there are those listening and going, is like, well, how could you say not to vote for that? And, we should have NDAs of that sort and so forth. Can you explain kind of briefly on the importance of having NDAs and stuff like that for these privatized companies like that, if you can anyway?
Yeah, well, so it sort of comes down to government philosophy, right? So my worldview and my view of government is not that the federal government needs to cram down regulations on industry. And so I think it's perfectly legal. I've written many non-disclosure agreements and many confidentiality agreements, for a variety of reasons. And there's no reason why a company can't choose to do that. It's a private industry. This is a privately held corporation. It's not publicly traded, not subject to SEC regulations and federal regulations. There's no reason why they can't say, look, if you want to come, we have public figures in this building, many of them, 53 public figures plus an owner who's in the news. There's no reason why, and it is common for companies to do so, to have non-disclosure agreements as a condition of employment. And the idea of saying, you can't, use them because the federal government wants to impose a regulation all around the country. What people don't understand is all these regulations cost money. Okay. Ultimately, it hurts the economy, and you have 1 billion regulations. What's gonna be the effect of this? Well, these companies aren't going to be able to operate at peak efficiency and attract the people they want to attract because, they can't do an NDA. So it's going to affect their business, which you don't need the federal government doing things like this. And you certainly don't. The other one is even more dumb, for the reasons
and
Alex
one
said.
I don't think is relevant because you are pretty much required to get consent if you're going to use somebody's photo for anything anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, you do. For
like
the most
whenever
part.
I do a webcast, I actually have to post a notice in public saying, we are webcasting this. If you are in this room, you agree to be on this webcast.
Well, and your employer ultimately is the federal government.
Sure.
You're a contractor, but I mean, in the federal government has to be more careful about that necessarily. Right. But either way, you're not going to take your employees' photos and just throw them all over every place without having consent somewhere.
And as far as an NDA doesn't prevent you from, say, reporting something, reporting sexual harassment or misconduct, or anything.
Well, it depends on how it's written. Okay. I mean, certainly, it's generally speaking. I mean, not going to keep you from reporting a crime necessarily, but it does keep you from talking about. What no NDA does will keep you from responding to subpoenas and responding to court orders. Usually, what they'll say is, if you get a subpoena, then you have to notify us within some X period of time. They can't. Nobody can. Contractually keep you from responding to things like subpoenas and court orders. Okay.
What if it is like you can't hide a sexual assault?
I've never seen one go that far in that, and I don't think any company that is a legitimate business would ever do that.
All right, so
now what? But
where we are is teetering on here.
No, we're not. That's not it at all. What has happened in this case is that there was a civil claim filed by this woman based on what she claimed happened in an airplane, and an insurance company settled a civil lawsuit. And what this NDA says is, and again, I've settled many lawsuits,
right?
And every single one of them had this same thing in it, and it said, there's a confidentiality provision. You can't talk about it because it's over. Because we are buying with this is peace. We're buying finality.
That's about the lawsuit. I think we're talking about you agree to work here. NDAs that
and you agree to not talk about it, and you agree you can't say anything about your employment here until such time as we allow you to. That is common, particularly in businesses with public figures involved.
So basically, you can't go blast out to the public about anything like that. But
none of these is going to say, if you get assaulted.
But you can certainly get legal counsel, handle everything, either in house or the appropriate judicial ways or whatever. But you can't just go out. As a philosophical
point, never trust in-house legal counsel if you've been assaulted.
Sure, right.
Well, also remember in-house legal counsel.
I phrase that poorly. I'm just talking about in terms of getting legal counsel and handling everything.
HR is always there for the company, if not for you. People always should remember that.
Yeah, and I think, Dave, what you're asking, I mean, it's certainly any company would allow you to take a copy of the agreement and read it and get have your own attorney read it, if that's what you're asking. And none of these are ever going to say you can't report a crime. No confidentiality agreement or NDA would ever say anything like that. You can't report criminal activity that has happened to you. No, that's not a thing.
Yeah. Well, and so if there was a rule that just said there's a line you can't cross with an NDA like that, that would be the extent of what I would ever think.
Why would the federal government need to do that? Why is it appropriate for the federal government to regulate private industry?
Why would it be appropriate for a business to ever even consider going that far?
That's not the point. The point is that is constitutionally a state law function.
The point is that the whole point of government is to say there are lines we can't cross in society.
It's not the federal government's ruled line to cross in this case. It's not a federal issue. It's a state issue at most.
It's a national company.
No, it isn't. It's a local. It is based in Virginia and operates in Virginia and Maryland.
And they get paid in every other state they play in.
So
that makes it a national company.
No, it doesn't. Your philosophy of government is diametrically opposed to mine, and so we're not going to agree on something like this.
No, I know that.
We could argue about it forever, but I mean that's you and I view it totally differently. I don't think this is remotely close to a federal issue.
I think there are plenty of. I don't think. Well, one, you and I again, we have different views on what is federal, what is state.
Right.
Doesn't matter anymore, in my mind. All right. What was our next thing even on the list?
Well, at some point we got to get to the New York Giants.
Again? Didn't we just do the New York Giants?
We did just do the New York Giants.
God dang it!
Want to do them again?
No. All right, Daniel Jones runs around a lot. There's the New York Giants.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
I think
first off, let's the fact that this game was flexed into being a primetime game, good thing for the team. I feel like that
depends on how the team does.
Well, but it's a sign that you're a team on the rise. They actually want to put you on primetime as opposed to, hey, we just would like to never see you on any national stage, which is where they've been for a while.
A long while.
Yeah. Other than the fact that they always got thrown into a Thanksgiving game for some reason.
That was because of Dallas.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, this game is actually kind of important because
yes, it's a hugely important game for sure.
When I realized last night that I needed a post for Wednesday and it was 9:30 my time, I just whipped up a real quick playoff picture thing and threw it out there. And after looking at that, so Washington is 7-5-1. We know that. The Giants are 7-5-1. 6 and 7 seeds, because remember there's 3 wild cards. Behind them are the Seahawks at 7 and 6, and then the Lions at 6 and 7. So it's really the 3 teams: Washington, Giants, Seahawks. This game, Washington versus Giants, 1 game up and a tiebreaker over the loser. Yep. With 4 games left,
so including it's actually, this one too. Yeah.
Right. And so with 3 games afterwards, and so. That is there's a huge leg up on the team that wins. And so I think the networks see this and go, this is a team that is in a very, like the 8-5-1 team is in a very solid place to grab a wild card. And so I think it's important, and the league sees that it's important.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it is. I mean, in all likelihood, in Washington's case, if they don't win this one, they're out. Same. I mean, whichever team loses,
they're on the outside looking in. For sure,
way on the outside looking in. Both have. We finished with Dallas here. The Giants finished with the Eagles. Let's just chalk those both up as losses. It's going to be a very tough road to hoe for either team if they lose this one. Washington has a very difficult schedule after this game. I don't think people realize. Even if you win this game, you're still looking at a very
49ers, Browns, and Cowboys.
Yeah, that could easily be 3 losses right there.
Tough slate. Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
I think Washington's game plan is largely the same as it was 2 weeks ago.
Probably. That's been their game plan for the last 8 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, the most important thing is like I wrote in the last week's preview, live up to the moment.
Yeah.
Don't collapse. Play your game. That's the most important thing. But again, I mean, when you're talking about the Giants, what do you do? What game plan would you have? What would I have? I mean, I think you got to run the ball. You got to play to your strengths. You're going to have to figure out how to run the ball against this team. I think you have play to Taylor Heineke's strengths and play to the fact that they blitz a lot. Short, controlled passes, play action. Get him on the run. I think that's what you do. I don't think it's like the time to sexy Rexy throw it deep at all.
No. This is definitely going to be stick to your defense and control the clock situation. You're right about that. I think the better question for this game, well, there's a couple. One, the Chase Young factor. He should come back at this point, but how much do you play him? What does that do to the game? And I've been thinking about that a lot. I want him to play. I don't want him playing third downs this early. I know that might sound weird and counterintuitive, but I want to see is he going to play within the system or is he going to freelance? Because if he's going to freelance, we can't have that on third downs. Let him go nuts down 1, down 2 this game. And then see, where we are from there. And besides, they're not. Even if he comes back, he can't play a full game yet, right? Like you just don't throw a guy in and say play 100%.
What do you guys think? Chase Young is fascinating to me because I wasn't a fan of him particularly.
Right.
In the first play, it wasn't like not a fan, but I didn't think he was really worth all the Gaga attention and all that.
Right.
And I still kind of don't. What do you guys think we're going to see in Chase Young when he comes back, if this is the game he comes back.
I'll be honest with you. I think what we're going to see with him after you see how, right now this defense is playing within the system, within the scheme. They're playing very effective. And obviously, I think we know the player that was freelancing a year ago. I think we fully understand who Rivera and them were talking about, and that was absolutely Chase Young. And I think Chase Young is smart enough and enough of a team player to realize that, when I get out there, I have to do what I have to do. I have to play. I have to play to what's being called. I got to stick to my assignments, and so forth. And I think he'll have some leeway of kind of freelancing because, I think he is a big game type of defensive end who can change a game, sure, but he has to play to a system and scheme, and especially if he wants to make that payday potentially after this year. I think he'll come back. He'll be on a pitch count. I think he'll play within the scheme. Little freelancing maybe, but I think you're going to see a defensive line coming down the stretch that we were hoping to see for the last year and a half. I think we're going to finally see that because you're seeing all the other components come together. The center and the two, between Payne and Allen, probably arguably the best duo in the league. Sweat's feeding off of them. Hill's having a pretty game. Hill and Smith Williams are having interchangeably pretty decent years off each other, because of the attention. Chase Young, it's right there. Just take it, man. Just go out there, play the defense, and do what you're supposed to do, and you're going to be just fine.
That's assuming that he's mentally capable of doing that. You would have thought the same thing of LeVar Arrington years ago. The man just couldn't do it. Freelance too much.
Well, it's a personality thing as much as it is mentality. Yeah,
I agree. But watching LeVar Arrington like I did, being a Penn State fan, he was the true definition of selfishness. He did not care about what was going on around him. He was all about getting his numbers, his stats. He drove Paterno nuts. He drove that defense, the defensive coordinator, I'm not going to mention his name on here, absolutely nuts. Because that's all he did. He was a very selfish player in Penn State, and he was a selfish player for us. Chase Young was never ever labeled as a selfish player. Yes, he would take moments, or he would freelance, he would do things on his own and so forth, but it was never to that level. I've never heard that anyway.
Fair enough. That's fair enough. I don't know. If I would hope for anything this past year for Chase Young, it's that he's got humbled a little bit, maybe, because I think he needed it. I think he got a bit too big for his britches, is something my mother would say. A little bit, and if this past year recovering from the injury and having a negative 2021 season taught him anything, hopefully maybe it's that he's not bigger than the team, and you do need to play within the system. And if he could do that, he could be an effective player. Maybe he'll never be Lawrence Taylor or whatever, or Bruce Smith, but if he can do that, it can still be a win.
Yeah,
he certainly has talent.
And in terms of what I would expect to see from him if he plays this game,
that's really what I was getting at.
Yeah.
What are we?
Raw numbers, probably about a third of the snaps is what I would project or just guess. I wouldn't be expecting to see any big plays necessarily, just maybe some sound football overall, a nice run stop here there. But in reality, it's going to take him probably the rest of this year, if he plays, to just get back to his old self.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
you've got to learn to trust that knee again. You've got to learn to trust, because didn't he have to have surgery on his other leg too? He had multiple surgeries.
Well, I think they used the knee on the other one to take the piece of the patella for the other knee to replace for the.
So he's got to
trust I had done on my knee.
He really screwed his knee up. His knee was in terrible shape, even by football standards.
And the wild card to me is, he's never been the fastest guy. What is his speed going to look like now is going to be the difficult thing.
But see, Chase was a guy who had a lot of burst in short space, And yeah, I mean, is he going to be able to plant this leg and do that same thing? I guess we'll find out. I think he's going to want. I think I said this last week, but I think he has some. He's going to want to prove.
I'd hope so.
That he can do something. He's going to want to show everybody that he's Chase Young and he's back, even if it's just for 3 games.
I hope that's right. I mean, when I looked at him playing his rookie year, I know he's an end. He plays a lot more like an edge linebacker to me, because he's always in a 2-point stance, and he's much better like stopping the run.
He's just too big for that, though. He's 6'6".
I know physically, but I'm just saying, like, style wise, it always looked a little linebackery, just in my mind. I know that's weird, but
anyway, so that's all. That is great. So in terms of defense and the Giants' offense, I mean, it still comes down to Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones on the ground.
Yep.
If you keep Saquon Barkley from looking like a Hall of Famer like he has at times, and Daniel Jones, you keep him in the pocket and stop him from rushing all over the place, I think you can do those 2 things alone. You have a good shot of winning.
Yeah. No.
They don't really have. The Giants are very hurt. People are out.
Mm-hmm. They just got their butts kicked in Philly.
Yep. Yeah.
So that'll help.
And by the way, so injury report, since I do have that, Washington, everybody practiced, but there are a whole bunch of limiteds. Gibson, Milne, Norwell, Robinson, Cam Sims, Smith Williams, St. Juice, Montez Sweat, Trey Turner, Chase Young, all limited. The Giants had a bunch of DNPs. Josh Zidu, the offensive lineman, Adoree Jackson, Richie James, Dexter Lawrence, Shane Lemieux, Julian Love, Jihad Ward, Daniel Bellinger. Oh, Bellinger was just limited. And it was Lawrence and Love were rest. So they have a bunch of people who aren't practicing, but it's only Wednesday, so we'll see. That is injuries.
Okay. Why don't we just do score predictions? I know I wanted to get to one of our other our national topics before we run out of time.
All right.
So, what are you guys thinking this one ends up at?
Look, I try to be honest. Lord knows I'm not a homer anymore. I just don't think Washington can escape without a loss to the Giants at some point this season. So, I mean, they tied them before. It was a close game. I think it'll be a close game. Mm-hmm. But I hate to burst anybody's bubble, and I'm not trying to be negative, but I think this is going to be like a low-scoring Giants win this time, along the lines of 2017-ish. Giants.
Okay. Dave?
Well, real quick, though, wouldn't it be the most Giants thing ever after a humiliating loss if they come back and they put out like a prolific offense and run up the score, and all of a sudden their defense like the 85 Bears?
Yeah, that would be the most.
I could buy the defense part. I don't know if I could buy the offense doing that.
Well, of course not, but still. Yeah. No, it's just I hear what you're saying, Steve, but you know what? I think right now this team is kind of they have a certain focus that they really haven't had in a long time. And I think that with Heineke, he kind of really thrives in these games. I think it's going to be like a 2017 Washington win. And I think Heineke's got a little something to prove after the last game. And also to keep Wentz off his tail because Wentz is off of IR now.
Yep, so. That's true. Wentz is going to be the number 2 guy now.
Yep.
All right. Hear me out. 2020 tie again.
Oh, God. Can you imagine? That's where I'm rooting for that just to see what happens.
And the world just melts down at that point. We're all done.
I love it.
That's great. I love it too.
Just back-to-back 2020 ties. Season's over. Just for comic effect, season's over.
And is it a 2020 tie because Sly misses an extra point on the last score?
Let's go with something. Yeah. Slightly different 2020 tie.
It'd be pretty funny if they just. The same exact thing happened again, like deja vu all over again.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Or maybe somehow there's like safety involved. I don't know. It's just gonna be ridiculous.
I mean, at the end of the day, in all seriousness, Washington's offense just isn't good enough to beat good teams on a regular basis.
Sure.
They just don't have it. That's the problem.
No. I mean, they don't have the line, and as much as we like Heineke, that he's not that quarterback.
He's not John Elway. He's not Joe Montana.
No. All right, let's talk about the coming playoffs in the NFC. Looks like Philly's probably locked in to be the number 1 seed, right? And they're a very good-looking team.
They could collapse and miss out to the Vikings, but probably.
Yeah, that's true. The Vikings, who are negative 1 point still in overall scoring, points versus points allowed.
10-3, one way or the other.
Yeah. It's just a wild thing. But Dave, you came to us with this topic, and I like it. Realistically, who has the best chance at beating Philly? You had mentioned San Francisco off the bat, so why don't you start giving what are you thinking with how San Francisco could actually beat this team?
Well, San Francisco just they started off a little slow, going 3-4.
Sure,
they were giving up. Granted, they weren't giving up a ton of yards per game, and so for the defense was still pretty solid. But it was their offense was kind of holding them back with Lance didn't quite seem right, and then Garoppolo came in, took him a couple games, and he started playing better, playing well down the stretch, and then they started getting that win off in the into the 6-game win streak. The 6-game win streak is where they've been the most impressive right now. I mean, they've gone against a high-powered Dolphins team outside of that one big play to open the game. They completely took down one of the top passes in the game to a 53% completion percentage. I think he had a QB rating of down in the 60s or whatnot in that game and so forth. It's because after the KC game where they ran up over 9 yards per play, but it's KC, it's Mahomes. But see, I focus on that game because that game and what KC did is very identical to what Philadelphia can do. But Philadelphia doesn't have that track record. They don't have the longevity that KC has had to this point. I love what Hurts has done. I love his story. I love where he's going. To me, I think he's going to end up being the league MVP this year. But now he's going to be faced now with Mahomes type of pressure going into the playoffs. Is he ready for that? Is their running game good enough? Because the one thing San Francisco can do is completely take your running game away, to include Jalen Hurts. Because their linebacker, Fred Warner, is probably one of the best, if not the best linebacker, sideline to sideline, against the run, in pass coverage, you name it. He's probably the number 1 linebacker in the league. He could do everything. So in terms of if Goddard's healthy, he'll shut him down. If not, the safety Chevron, I think his name is. He's going to be available to come down and take out Goddard. They got so many tools on that defense to where the bread and butter on Philadelphia has been Jalen Hurts and his legs. That's been their running game, and they've been feeding their passing game off of that running game. If you take Jalen Hurts and that element away from his game, he's shown he can still throw from the pocket and so forth, but they're not as explosive once you take his legs away. And San Francisco is the only defense in the NFC. And ignore what Washington did. That was
I was going to say they're not the only one.
Yeah, right. But that was more of an aberration than anything else.
Right.
That was the exception to the rule, as you would say. San Francisco is a legitimate defense that can take. They could take their 2 receivers out of the game. They could take Goddard out of the game. They can take Jalen Hurts out of his element, and they can keep this game down to a low-scoring game. And if it's a low-scoring game, San Francisco is one of the top teams in time of possession, running the ball this year effectively as they do. It's just I can see that being one like a 13-10, heartbreaking loss for Philadelphia. Yeah, and San Francisco travels. They travel very well, so that's not an issue. And then Brock Purdy. How can you not root for Brock Purdy?
I can honestly say I've never heard of Brock Purdy before last week.
Yeah. Oh, you never heard of Mr. Irrelevant?
I know. I didn't know it was him. I didn't pay attention to who it was this year. I agree. San Francisco could beat him. I also think Dallas could beat him. If Dallas has a good day, they have high quality offense. They have a high performing defense. NFC East games are always, a lot of times with the good teams, they're dogfights. Dallas could, I think, win that game. I think the Vikings are a paper tiger. I don't think the Vikings are going to win. The Buccaneers don't even belong in the playoffs. They're like Washington 2 years ago. I mean, they're going to get there by default.
Yep.
Washington playing a serious Eagles team in the playoffs. I don't think so.
No.
And the Giants, no. So I think it's if you ask me, it's Eagles, then 49ers, Cowboys in some order. Those three teams, and I do think Dallas could beat the Eagles on a good day at least. And Jalen Hurts, by the way, I mean, I was not impressed with Jalen Hurts in Oklahoma. I watched his Oklahoma film a lot because I studied Cam Sims pretty closely. At Alabama, rather. Sorry. Didn't look like an NFL quarterback. Looked better at Oklahoma, but still didn't look great. He has improved a lot. It's like Josh Allen's done the same thing. Mm-hmm. Josh Allen didn't look great either, and I still don't think he's a Hall of Famer, but he's made it work. And that's what Jalen Hurts has done. So I admire the guy, both of those guys, for that.
Look, I think if you compare what the Eagles did to build and what the Bills did to build around these two quarterbacks who had very similar playing styles, let's be honest, where they're not that accurate of a thrower. And what do? Let's just go get some of the best hands receivers we can get and put them out there. Nothing helps your QB's percentage like getting,
having
a Diggs
Art Monk back
or
there.
A Brown. Yeah. Somebody with a catch radius of half the field.
I still don't know how in the world A.J. Brown ended up on the Eagles. I just don't understand how that happened.
So many trades.
It's just crazy. Stuff. I mean, how do you let him go? I don't get it.
How you let him go, I don't understand. Yeah. The wild thing is we're also in this weird age of football where there's just so many good receivers too. Yeah. But yeah, in terms of who could beat them, I think you guys are pretty much right. The thing is, Washington showed there is a model to beat the Eagles, and it's clock control and playing good defense. And that kind of suits the 49ers better than any other team out there right now. When I look at what Kyle Shanahan's done with that running game for years, I've always wondered why we weren't doing that here. We had a lot of guys who could kind of be that Deebo Samuel, and they never quite utilize. They're doing it better this year, but the last 3 or 4 seasons, Washington for some reason has never quite gotten there. I always said there was a lack of creativity in the running game.
It's also a lack of talent in the running game.
Sure, but, if you have 3 or 4 guys who can all be runner receivers, use them that way. Don't just line up in the same formation and run it straight up the gut each time or whatever they were doing.
I do think Washington's offense under both Jay Gruden and Ron Rivera both has been uncreative and predictive.
Especially in the running game,
and telegraphs, their play call fairly easily.
Yeah. Although I would say this is
now. I would say though, now that we have healthier tight ends and Scott Turner's been running more of the 12 personnel sets, he's gotten much more creative in terms, especially with Samuels in the last several weeks. But
no doubt,
has to be that running game. They have to lean on that running game at time of possession. So
Dave, I don't know if you fully understand how many times I've had to correct Samuels to Samuel in your columns because the Pro Football Reference linker consistently links it to the wrong guy.
Yes, I know.
I have to pay particular attention to that because you always write Samuels.
I know I do. You know what? And even times I go back and I go back to correct it. Yeah, I failed through there.
It's just something about Dave. It's going to be Samuels. Like, oh God, again.
By the way, speaking of, since we were talking about San Francisco a bit, their QB situation is one of the wildest, I think, in the NFL's now, isn't it?
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, all right, so you have a starter in Garoppolo who you don't want. You have a guy you paid a fortune for, you want to be the starter who isn't looking ready still.
Right.
But isn't that their fault?
Oh, absolutely.
Didn't the world know? Everybody in the face of the earth except the San Francisco 49ers leadership knew that Trey Lance wasn't going to be the guy.
Right. He was a guy you could have taken a risk on, but you didn't need to trade up for him.
Right.
And
everybody should have seen that.
They traded a fortune for that.
Yeah.
And then they got Brock Purdy, who's looking okay.
The other interesting quarterback note from this week. I noticed Marcus Mariota just took off and left the Atlanta Falcons.
Did he?
Yeah, just left. They benched him, and he just disappeared and left the team.
Oh wow!
Did he really?
I saw this note just today.
Oh, I didn't see. I did not see that today. I mean, look, I've been a Desmond Ridder fan, you know that, but that's wild. Did Mariota not know that he was always going to be a 1-year guy there?
I don't know.
Did he sign there and think this was going to be his long-term answer? Come on.
Okay, so just because this happens to be
top of mind,
first
it's
hit,
fine.
this is the New York Post, and the headline is Marcus Mariota left Falcons after being benched for Desmond Ridder. Dated who wrote
14th?
this? Justin Terranova, dated the 14th of December. Yeah, and it says the veteran quarterback left the team after head coach Arthur Smith announced Mariota would be benched. Mariota, 29, was absent from the team's facility Monday after Smith informed him of the team's decision. That's pouting right there.
Yeah. Look. I kind of like Marcus Mariota as a quarterback. I think he's not great, but at least if Washington had grabbed him instead of trading for Wentz, I would have been okay with it. They're about the same in my mind, but yeah, you don't want that kind of pouty.
Who's gonna sign you again if you're gonna,
Hey, Marcus Mariota, welcome
DC
to the
Defenders,
XFL.
maybe.
Yeah, the defender. Yeah, maybe them.
Yeah.
He doesn't need the money, though.
There's an Atlanta team for any of these minor leagues right now. He'll have to move again.
Marcus Mariota isn't from Atlanta, though.
No, he's from Hawaii, right?
He went to school in Oregon. I don't know where he's from. Is he from
no
Hawaii?
idea.
I thought he was from.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I don't know.
I don't
but he
remember,
went to school on the West Coast, so
Yeah. I'm gonna look that up. Well, we vamp for just a second. I want to make sure. Yeah, Honolulu. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So
anyway,
Hawaii.
I thought that's super interesting. When's the last time you heard somebody who's not crazy? Antonio Brown or somebody. Okay,
right.
Sure. But
right.
Marcus Mariota, it's not odd. I mean, he's always seemed like a very level-headed dude, and he, like you said, he knows what's up.
Right.
You should have,
or at least you'd think he would.
Yeah.
I mean, you were signed to be the placeholder.
Just you're going to pout so much that you're going to voluntarily give up the remaining weeks of your contract potentially.
Right.
That's.
Well, and also,
should call me, Marcus. Call me before you do something stupid next time.
Yeah, well, if you're a quarterback by default. Even the third string quarterback has to be leader on the team, right?
Yeah.
That's just part of the job. Leaders don't take a little personal day because they're sad they lost their job.
Quitters never win and winners never quit.
Yep,
That's
exactly.
the old quote goes.
Yes.
I wrote that quote. That's not an old quote. It's something I created.
Steve quoting.
You're not all that young,
actually
though,
wrote
either.
The quote. I don't even know who that's from.
What, Dave?
I said, well, you're not all that young either.
Okay, just don't pay attention to that. I wrote that just now.
Dave, aren't you 2 years older than him?
I'm right around him. Yes, I am.
Because if I'm old, you're old, Dave. That's,
yes, which is why I can say that. We're both balding and everything. You know what I mean? Hey.
Yeah. I'm looking up that quote, and it's not attributed to... Oh, no, wait. It is attributed to somebody.
It's attributed to Steve Thomas.
Steve Thomas _ Vince Lombardi. Hey, you quoted a Redskins coach.
I did, yeah.
There you go.
No, I didn't. No, that is my quote. I don't care what site you're looking
Vince Lombardi quoted you. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm not that old. That's just what you're reading is a lie.
Baby Steve, first words out of his mouth.
Vince Lombardi stole he was gone before my time. So Vince Lombardi did not. That is a lie. That is.
You were not born in 1967 or something?
No, I was not.
All right.
Don't give me that much age, Alex. My goodness.
All right, we've lost it. We've lost the show.
Yeah.
You're should have heard our pre-show discussion. Was
the pre-show. I thought that should have been on the show. That was a good one. We were talking about like people getting in arrests and fights at different stadiums. It was fun.
I was telling my snot rocket story.
Yeah, your snot rocket story about your days as a roadie, which started out with me talking about a coworker of mine who was a roadie, and for like
I'll just say this: if you want the world champion snot rocket launcher, it's the lead singer of the band Ugly Kid Joe. That dude blew a mean snot rocket.
And I'll just say this now: if I see you as a Redskins fan, fellow Redskins fans
Dave's gonna ditch you.
At Lincoln Financial Field, you want to sit there and start pointing at all the Eagle fans? I'm separating from you. You're all alone, brother.
You're on your own.
Yeah. If you don't go to Philly to pick fights with their fans, that's not a good move.
That is not a good move.
Don't pick fights with fans at our own stadium. Like, just don't be an a-hole. How about that?
Just watch the game.
Yeah. Every football game I've ever gone to, I see one guy trying to pick a fight with somebody. And, like, you're all way too old to be doing that.
And I've been to several games at Lincoln Financial Field with my Redskins gear on.
Yeah.
Had a great time with them all. I just accepted all the berating and so forth. But, hey, it's their home field, not mine.
Comes up and tries to throw a punch.
Yeah, no. I've never had that. Yeah.
You also don't look like a very punchable face, which helps. Like, I have a punchable face. People would want to punch me, I feel like.
Usually it's usually when I start speaking and people get to realize the kind of cynical personality I can have. Mm-hmm. That's when I become punchable.
I have the best line. Whenever people come at me like this, and it's hard now because my fandom is changing and all that, but I just say, look, there's nothing you can say about this football team that I have not already said in front of thousands of people.
Yep.
Sure. There's not one word you can say that I haven't already said live on the air. So come at me,
the other
bro.
thing, Dave, you also, like, the second you start speaking, everyone knows you've at least made out with 3 girls in Passyunk at some point. You know, like, you sound Philly local very much.
That's the beauty of being on the hog side, though. It's like, what are you going to do? Insult the team?
Yeah, right.
You going to insult me?
Come on.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, bring it on. It's even easier now. I just say, I agree with you. I don't even like this team either. I don't know why I'm on this show.
All right. Should we wrap this up?
We should. We're way off the rails now.
Yeah, we're way off.
Yeah,
Train blew up 15 minutes ago.
Yeah. All right, guys. Happy Christmas to all of you. Happy Hanukkah to some of you. And we'll talk to you. Well, I won't because I'll be out of town. But
Dave and I will talk to you before Christmas.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Later, guys.
All right. Take it easy. Bye.